Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering your life savings can no longer buy groceries. Not because you spent it, not because the bank failed, but because the number itself stopped meaning anything. Picture this. It's the summer of 1946. A school teacher in Budapest walks to the market before class. He has taught mathematics for decades. Numbers are his discipline. Precision is his language. He has done everything right. Saved carefully. Bought government bonds. Trusted the system. Yesterday, flour had a price. Today, the shopkeeper refuses to write one down. By the time the chalk touches the board, the number would already be outdated. Prices were doubling every 15 hours. 15. The teacher understood exponents. He understood compounding. But he did not understand what it feels like when mathematics escapes the classroom and invades your kitchen. 3 blocks away lived a widow. No formal education, no economic theory. Her late husband left her 2 things: the apartment she owned outright and a small pouch of gold coins passed down through generations. She did not plan for hyperinflation. She simply held what was tangible. Within months, the teacher's savings were ash. His bonds were technically honored. The government paid him exactly what it promised, in currency that could no longer purchase bread. The widow? Her gold became currency. Her property retained real value. By the end of the collapse, she could have bought the teacher's building. Same city, same crisis. 2 outcomes. The difference was not intelligence, it was asset selection. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people misunderstand. Economic collapse does not erase wealth, it transfers it. Think of it like a river changing course. The water doesn't vanish, it floods new ground while leaving the old riverbed dry. When a currency weakens, prices don't rise evenly. Some assets reprice immediately, others lag behind. During that lag, purchasing power moves quietly from one group to another. Salaries adjust slowly, bonds pay fixed amounts, pensions remain numerically stable, but assets tied to real-world necessities adjust fast, sometimes instantly. That time gap is where the transfer happens. History shows the same pattern over and over again, across continents, across centuries. When currencies fracture, wealth migrates toward 5 specific reservoirs. The first is productive land, not empty lots waiting for development, not speculative acreage, land that feeds people. During Germany's monetary collapse in the early 1920s, urban professionals saw their savings dissolve, but farmers controlled food, and food does not care about monetary policy. City dwellers traded furniture, heirlooms, even musical instruments for potatoes and butter. Farmers accumulated assets not because they were smarter, but because they owned production tied directly to survival. The land kept producing, the currency did not. The same pattern surfaced in Zimbabwe decades later. Functional farmland became more valuable than stacks of local currency. Grain could be exported, beef could be traded, paper money could not. Food demand has a biological floor. People eat during booms, they eat during depressions, they eat during collapse. That biological constant makes productive land powerful during monetary instability. It exists outside the promises printed on paper. But this is only the beginning, because land is just one of 5 places the river flows when the system fractures. And what comes next may completely change how you view the money sitting quietly in your account right now. But what happens next will change everything. The second reservoir is monetary metals, gold, silver, not jewelry, not decoration, but it's fallback money. Throughout history, when paper failed, societies instinctively reached for metal, not because of ideology, because of memory. Gold cannot be printed at will. It grows slowly, limited by geology and physics. When currency supply expands rapidly, gold doesn't need to do anything to rise. It simply reflects the shrinking unit of measurement. During the 1970s in the United States, inflation eroded purchasing power year after year. Gold moved from $35 an ounce to over $800 within a decade. It wasn't that gold transformed, the dollar did. Gold became the thermometer measuring fever. In countries experiencing currency breakdown, from Latin America to Eastern Europe, families who quietly converted part of their savings into gold preserved purchasing power while neighbors holding paper promises watched numbers multiply and value disappear. The third reservoir is operating businesses with pricing power. This distinction is critical. Not all businesses survive collapse. Many fail spectacularly. But businesses providing essentials, food distribution, energy, utilities, medical services, often retain the ability to raise prices rapidly. If a product cannot be postponed, the seller holds leverage. In Argentina's repeated inflation cycles, companies controlling food supply and fuel distribution survived by adjusting prices daily. Workers paid monthly absorbed the inflation gap. The business owner did not. During Turkey's inflation era, large diversified firms acquired failing competitors at distressed valuations. Inflation did not destroy them, it consolidated them. The key is repricing speed. If your income adjusts slower than inflation, you lose purchasing power. If your revenue adjusts faster, you gain relative strength. It's arithmetic. fourth reservoir is foreign currency exposure. When local currencies collapse, assets denominated in stronger currencies rise in local terms automatically. During the Asian financial crisis of the late 1990s, several Southeast Asian currencies plunged. Individuals holding dollar-denominated assets saw local purchasing power multiply. Real estate could be purchased at steep discounts, not because buildings lost utility, but because the measuring stick changed. But there's a double edge here. Foreign currency assets protect holders. Foreign currency debt destroys borrowers. When exchange rates shift violently, liabilities grow faster than incomes. Which brings us to the fifth reservoir, strategic real estate. Urban property in locations where demand is structurally strong behaves differently than speculative property. During monetary upheaval in Europe in the 20th century, rent controls temporarily distorted cash flows, but buildings remained standing. When currency stabilized, physical property revalued based on scarcity and replacement cost. Brick does not evaporate when paper collapses. However, leverage matters. Owners without debt survived. Owners financed with foreign currency loans were often crushed. Same asset class, different outcomes. And there's a sixth, often overlooked category: skills, specialized skills that cannot be postponed. During Venezuela's economic crisis, mechanics, electricians, and medical professionals were paid in goods, dollars, or barter. Their services retained value because broken cars and medical emergencies do not wait for currency reform. Meanwhile, salaried bureaucrats saw their purchasing power evaporate despite receiving full nominal pay. Pricing power applies to individuals, too. The pattern becomes visible now. The assets that survive share one trait. They exist independently of currency stability. Or the assets destroyed share another trait. They are promises denominated in that currency. Bank deposits, bonds, fixed pensions, salaries, all promises. And when the unit measuring those promises shrinks, the promises are technically honored, but functionally hollow. This is where the transfer becomes invisible. Statements arrive, payments process, accounts update, everything appears normal, until it doesn't. And this is where the video takes a shocking turn. Who pays the price of this transfer? History answers bluntly. The middle class. The wealthy typically hold diversified assets: land, businesses, metals, international exposure. Diversification is a byproduct of scale. The poor often hold little financial wealth to begin with. But the middle class? They save in currency. They buy bonds. They trust pensions. They deposit earnings in banks. They build stability on instruments fully tied to the health of the measuring unit. When that unit weakens, they stand directly in the path of the river. After Germany's monetary collapse in the 1920s, the professional class was devastated. After Latin America's debt crises, middle-class savings were wiped out while foreign investors returned to buy assets cheaply. Statistically, median wealth drops sharply during monetary crises. Mean wealth recovers faster. Inequality widens. It is the fingerprint of transfer. Now zoom out. Global government debt has expanded dramatically in the last decades. Pension systems face long-term funding gaps. Entitlement promises stretch far beyond projected revenues. There are only three theoretical paths to resolve excessive obligations: massive economic growth beyond historical norms, explicit default, or gradual debasement. The first requires growth rarely sustained in mature economies. The second is politically explosive. The third is subtle. Currency expansion allows governments to meet obligations nominally while reducing real burden silently. It is not dramatic. It is administrative, but it shifts purchasing power over time. This is not a prediction of imminent collapse. Systems can persist longer than logic suggests, but the structural mechanics are clear. When the measuring stick weakens, assets tied directly to human necessity, scarcity, and independent value hold ground. Assets tied to promises denominated in that stick erode. The teacher in Budapest understood formulas, but he trusted the unit. The widow trusted tangible assets. One relied on paper, the other relied on physics. Same collapse, different destiny. The next crash may not look like the past. It may unfold slower. It may appear as prolonged inflation rather than hyperinflation. It may disguise itself as policy adjustment. But the mechanism will be familiar. Wealth will not disappear. It will move. The only real question is, where will you be standing when the river changes course? Most people never hear the next part. And that's the real danger, because by the time everyone sees it, repositioning becomes impossible. The shift happens quietly first, then suddenly. If this perspective challenged how you see savings, assets, and security, subscribe to Economic Tales, because understanding history is not about fear. It's about awareness. And awareness, in uncertain times, is the most valuable asset of all.